Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much. This is Punchline, the new look of Punchline Africa Television, right from the general headquarters in Nairobi. You can see for yourself, we are moving forward and we shall continue moving forward. Thank you very much for your custom. Thank you very much for all of you who have been there for us for the last 7 years. I want to thank my team and the teams of Punchline Africa across the continent of Africa and in Europe for the good work that they have done and continue to do as far as Punchline Africa TV is going bounds, and it will go bounds beyond, across borderless borders, crossing every continent of Africa, of the world, of the universe. Thank you very much. All of you who attend this, I want to thank you very much for your tenacity and for being there for us. This is Dr. David Matsanga with Matsanga Global Trends. In the studios in Nairobi, please, when you join nicely, switch off. Yes, Muriti, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. And I would like most of the time you show your faces, because this is a new type of format that we want it to be exciting, that we are not talking like on Twitter. We want our faces to be seen so that we attract as many people as possible.
All right. Good morning. We apologize for that. We have suffered a bit of a technical hitch from Dr. Matsanga's side, but once that has been sorted out, I think we shall be able to have him. So as we wait for him to come back, of course, he had started with the introduction of the rest of the panelists. We have Oromo Murti, and then we have Wanda Wesonga, and we also have Samuel Tawish. But before we get into the detailed introduction, allow me to take you through the headlines this morning of some of the leading newspapers in the country. And the Star newspaper, the main headline, why Kalonzo turned down Ruto's job offer. That story is on page 6. Allies say former VP putting house in order, focusing on 2027 presidential bid. And then just up there, why 3 Ruto CS picks are on verge of rejection. Cops in Pakistani Ashad shooting are disarmed. The story is on page 2. Radio African COG, that is the of governors, partner to tell the Council of Governors, partner to tell devolution stories. That story is on page 10. And the main pictorial is the sad reality on the ground as far as the drought is concerned, and drought takes its toll on precious wildlife. A couple of zebras there and other wildlife are just the carcasses being picked. They're just dying now, so it's quite a sad state of affairs there. The Standard newspaper, MP's warning shot to Ruto's cabinet amid clouds of doubt. All but one of President Ruto's cabinet nominees sailed through committee vetting. And by last evening, Penina Malonza was on verge of being saved by the plenary. As debate picks up this morning, focus shifts to the heavy task that waits ahead. The Daily Nation, EACC goes for former Moi aid in 2.5 billion Kenya shillings case. You'll find it in there, and haggling that led to the rejection of Malonza, Member of Parliament. I see Dr. Matsanga is back, but let me just finish up this quickly so that we just get back to him and we continue with the show. The Daily Monitor from Uganda, 11 blind pupils die in school fire. Oh, that is very sad. And the New Vision from Uganda as well. CMI takes over school fire probe. The Guardian from Nigeria, petrol nears 200 naira per litre as ex-depot price. Debt logistics escalates scarcity. The Nation also from Nigeria, scarcity petrol ex-depot price rises to 178 naira litre per naira. And the Newsday from Zimbabwe, ZEC, that is the Electoral Commission in Zimbabwe, digs in on voters' roll. The Daily News from Zimbabwe also, business seeks power solutions. That is what we have there. The Guardian from the UK, Prime Minister's reshuffle gamble on first day in charge. The Daily Telegraph also from UK, mistakes were made, I'll fix them. That is the promise by the new Prime Minister. Pretoria News from South Africa, Ramaphosa's advisor, his US dollar mule. And the Citizen from Tanzania, dirty cooking kills at least 33,000 yearly. And that is what we have in some of the newspapers from, we started with Kenya, others from the continent, and those two from the UK. You are now up to date. Good morning. Doc, back to you. Sorry, we suffered a bit of a technical hitch there, but I see you back now.
Thank you very much, Miriam. I'm back. There was a technical hitch, and this is expected all the time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Those watching us across the continents of the world, in Europe, in America, in Australia. Thank you very much. In South Africa, Johannesburg. Thank you very much. We hope this time something will come out of the war in Ethiopia, and restore the state and bring about, resolve the conflicts that have eaten that country. Then today we have a good, well laid out program. Miriam has already read for us. This is the new format that we want to do. We want to have face-to-face, a live interaction of a shorter time and bring more views, talk about more topics. If you have topics, you can send them to us. At any time, we shall be discussing those topics in advance. Give us time to discuss those topics. This station is Punchline Africa Television, and the program is Matsanga Global Trends. Let's go. Agenda number one on the program is for the first time, centuries are turning into joy. Millions and millions of years, the British Empire has survived, has lived. Millions and millions of years, nobody expected that such miracles would happen. But don't you see the changes that are taking shape across these countries, across the globe? Something is telling you that all things are not going to stay as they are. Let's look at the British Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister. Britain has had, in a spell of the whole of this year, we have had almost four. One, Boris. Two, we had Theresa May last year. 1 year ago, we have now Boris gone. We have Liz is gone. Now we have Mr. Sunak. One of the problems that Mr. Sunak faces and the Conservative Party faces, I want to put a disclaimer. I'm not a member of the Conservative Party. I'm a member of the Labour Party of the United Kingdom since 1987 when I became a member. I'm also a delegate for Croydon Central constituency in the Delegates Conference of the Labour Party. And therefore, I don't subscribe to the values. I subscribe to the British values, but I don't subscribe to the values of the Conservative Party that has ruled, mismanaged the economy of this country for some time. Time has come for us in the Labour Party to call upon the Conservative Party in this country to get rid of the leadership, the poor leadership, the statesmanship is gone. There is nothing that we can get on international scene. We are poorly being led. There is nothing since we left Brexit. Brexit was holding us. Brexit was the best way of uniting and bringing together the international expertise that is needed. Now we've gone into a different direction, and this country then also stands at a fragile politics. Politics of fragility is always a very dangerous type of politics. Thank you very much. That is the topic. Miriam, what do you have about the new British Prime Minister? Please, back in the studio.
Okay, thank you indeed. Thank you, Doc. Just a quick background before the rest are able to come in and give their thoughts on that. Britain's former Prime Minister, Finance Minister, he was a former Finance Minister, Rishi Sunak, has emerged as the frontrunner and now the Prime Minister after Boris Johnson dramatically dropped out of the race to be Conservative Party leader. The outgoing Prime Minister, Liz Truss, resigned last week after just 6 disastrous weeks in office, and candidates replaced Truss, on Monday. He replaced Truss on Monday to secure the support of over 100 Conservative Party lawmakers to enter the race to become the party and the country's new leader. And of course, Johnson's decision to withdraw from the contest left Sunak, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, competing against leader of the House of Commons, Penny Mordaunt. And if both candidates secured the backing of over 100, he was able to secure the backing of over 100 MPs to support him, and that placed him in that. And as Doc, you already mentioned, he is the first person of color to be the Prime Minister in Britain for over the years. Britain has enjoyed its kind of democracy.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, lady and gentlemen. You already have the background. The first man in centuries, in years, to inherit, to take over the 10 Downing Street. One of the quotations before I bring in my panelists is the carpenters. The Independent newspaper of London here has said the carpenters contracted by 10 Downing Street have been very busy lately. Britain's diminutive new Prime Minister had his podium.
We apologize again. Dr. Matsanga's connection is not very good this morning, but I think he is working on it. And as we wait for that to be fixed and for him to be back with us, perhaps I'll start with the panelists that we're having this morning. Wanda Wisonga, when you look at Britain's democracy and the change of leadership of that country as we have witnessed, and nothing seems to change as far as service delivery, as far as how that affects the life of the people is concerned. And the leadership there seems to be pegged on ideals and deliverance of the things that these candidates have promised. I think that's what made even Liz resign, because she was unable to deliver on one of her key promises when she was campaigning for this position. So what does that say as far as a strong institution or a strong democratic practice that we see compared to perhaps what we see here, where a change of leadership is more like a life and death situation? Wanga, what can we learn perhaps as Africa, as we grow our economy, from the British way of, politics there?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Miriam. And I salute all members, the panelists present. Now, looking into UK, their politics, and how things are running in UK, one will say that UK is indeed a mature country. That how by the fact that they're in a position to get someone whose background is traced from Africa, in itself, it is a win for them that they have matured as persons, as a country, that they are not interested in where someone is coming from, their background, but instead they look at a person. Then if they are convinced that this person stands a chance of bringing a change to what they are facing, then they are ready to go with the person. Now, getting back still to UK, then you look into the list. One, it is something that in Africa we are not used to, that a leader feels like they are unable to deliver, then they quit. to pave way for another person to get in and try and offer the solutions to the challenges that the country is facing. Now, that yes, they're doing well. Yes, Liz came in with quite a lot of promises. People felt like she stands a chance to offer solution to the problems they are facing insofar as the economy, the party unity and all those are concerned. But she never made it, and she decides to step aside. You'll still look into Sonak. That Sunak is getting in with in his speech, the first speech, Sunak acknowledges that yes, I'm coming in and we have a lot to do, that we have issues that we have been facing, that we face as a country insofar as COVID-19 is concerned, and we also have party issues. Sunak in one of his statements is telling his party that it's time that we either work together, we work as a unity, or we have to ship out, or rather, it is a do or die. Therefore, from where I stand, I feel like one of the challenges that UK is facing, and they need to probably find a quick solution to this, is how the parties will be able to unite and work together. That yes, it is a democratic nation. They're pulling together. The democracies seem to be taking, things are working, but it is a divided Conservative Party. And if the party members are divided, then even if the top leadership have the ideologies that will bring total change, they completely can't work out. The change cannot be realized if only one end of the ship is pulling, or if only one wheel is running. That it is not unless the four wheels are running, that's when this vehicle will move. Therefore, where Sunak stands, the greatest challenge that Sunak is facing is to ensure, number one, that he bring together members of this party so that they speak in one voice. Then the second thing, you need to craft some policies or some ways out that will ensure that skyrocketing prices of goods, the power, and all those things are addressed going forward. Therefore, allow me to listen to other panelists going as we build the discussion. But it is a total bonus to them that a leader feels like I'm unable to deliver, I'm unable to bring change to my country. Then they step aside to give room for other leaders to come in and try and offer solution. That in itself is total patriotism that any other individual, any other country should echo going forward. Thank you, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much. Doctor, I see that you're back.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we can go ahead and again, let me listen to more from our guest, Mirti Oroma, then Tawish.
Yes.
What do you look at the fragility, the fragile state of politics, Mirti Oroma? What is going on? This is a place where we thought there could be stability in terms of agreement, consensus, which they tell us to all the time, bring and way in Africa, that we should have consensus. Politics of consensus in Africa must be the politics of the norm, and then agree all parties, opposition, and that. But we see a fragile state coming up like the one in Italy. What is your view, Mr. Muriti?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Matsanga and Miriam. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
we hear you very well.
Go ahead. Good morning to you.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I also would like to thank all the panelists participating on this discussion in relation to the topics that we are given. At the moment, I think for me, it's a kind of a bit early to discuss about the development in the British, England, about the resignation of the Prime Minister within 45 days. there is a lot to learn from it as Africans. You know, the thing is, the British, even the developed countries in our world today, have challenges, and there is ways that I think the general global challenge of governance, global challenge of politics and economy, all those aspects of human life is I think giving you know, challenge to humans in general. So what's happening in British, I think, you know, we know the history of Britain, people that they are resilient and the challenge they have been facing in the world. So, but my point where I want to focus is what can we learn from how they are handling politics, economy, and governance when challenge are you know, facing you know, a country. There is where I want us to focus. Let me just land it here. Maybe I will want to talk more on the issues, the topic related to Ethiopia war and Tigray later on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Muriti Oromo, from a great country once called Ethiopia, which is now in tatters. We thank you, we value you, and we hope that you will give us more insights on the peace process that is ongoing. And I want to take this opportunity to thank President Uhuru, the former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta of Kenya, and I wish him a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. President, 62 years today. Happy birthday as you solve. It has come on the right time that a birthday boy should actually solve the problem of one of the Africa's, you know, dangerous wars, where some powers are taking and killing and maiming people as we speak now. Let me come to Tawish. Tawish, the question of Putin and Ukraine seem to be the one behind the fragility of politics in Europe. And you being one of the few seasoned veterans on the scene, do you think Ukraine has played a pivotal role in destabilizing European countries? In the Prime Minister's resigning, you see a lot of tension demonstrations in France. You see a lot across Europe. Italy is on tenterhooks. The Prime Minister there is saying we cannot be gagged from dealing with Russia. We need the oil, the gas, the prices are going up. It is affecting Africa also. What's your view of the new Prime Minister and the view of the war, Tawish?
Very well. Thank you so much, Dr. David Matsanga, and thank you, our colleague, panelist, and indeed our viewers who are watching this program. Dr. Matsanga, I agree with you, largely to the extent that the Russia-Ukraine war has indeed caused about a fiasco, not only between, of course, Ukraine, Russia, and maybe even the European nations, but largely in the global community. And that is why you see the ripple effects of the war in Ukraine today really are being felt far and wide, to the extent that each and every nation today in the world, at least, is having a pinch of what is happening between those two nations. Be that as it may, Dr. Matsanga, I think it's also very important for me to, one, congratulate the new, of course, Prime Minister, UK Prime Minister, that is Honorable Sunak, for his, of course, election as the new Prime Minister of UK. But essentially, Dr. Matsanga, I think there are so many things we get to learn out of this appointment. One, out of this election. One is because of the kind of mature democracy that is the, of course, the Western power countries, as it were. You cannot quite imagine, Dr. Matsanga, as one of the speakers has indeed alluded to, that the same cannot be said of the African continent today. It's exactly a sharp contrast that if an individual or a person a government official has been indicted, even on allegation on a certain issue, then they do not have the moral responsibility really even to quit government office, and that cannot be said of say Britain, say America, and other European nations, just as it has happened in the UK, having the Prime Minister really resign because of feeling like he's not living up to the expectation and living up to his call of duty, Dr. Matsanga. And I think that is one of the aspects really we are borrowing from these nations. Second, Dr. Matsanga, is that we also get to borrow that now UK, America, and the rest of these nations really are not so much interested in about the originality of the individuals who are going to serve in the highest office in the land. We all know who is the deputy, or who is the vice president of America today, United States of America, the lady, of course, and we now have the UK Prime Minister of the British Indian descent, first ever in the history, and also being the youngest, that is getting into this position really to serve. Dr. Matsanga, there are a lot of lessons that we get really to understand. But by and large, I think generally it's a call on the people who get the leadership positions really to live up to the aspirations and the expectations of the people who elect them into those offices. And when they fail, really, they have to really take up that moral responsibility and decide to do what we have seen become really more of a tradition in UK, America, and the rest of the Western power countries' tradition that they have to quit without even being pushed. And I think African people and the African continent really have a lot to learn out of this, that moving forward, we will want to see, in as much as there's a lot of, we may have divergent of opinion or views, or even hold a very different position about how, say, UK or, say, America does its politics, or how they carry out with the issue to do with democracy and every other thing. But by and large, we will agree that there are a lot of things that they do right, much as they don't do everything right. And I think it is only better for us to try and see how we can be able to opt those good practices that they do, to see how they can be of benefit and of positivity to the African people and the African nation moving forward, Dr. Matsanga. To itself, it has set a very good example, it has set a very good precedence, and I think we look forward to Prime Minister Sunak really bringing a new dawn of leadership, a paradigm shift, and being able to champion the interest of the people of the United Kingdom. Dr. Matsanga, for now, I submit.
Key ministries, thank you very much, Tawish. Key ministries appear to have been not shaken. I mean, the Treasury by Jeremy Hunt, and then you have Foreign Affairs by Jerry, who was a very close confidant of Boris. And then we have the Home Office, another Asian origin for the Home Office. I was expecting my friend Patel, but Patel is pro Boris. So Preet Patel seem to be going back in the back benches. But believe me or not, the struggle now seems to be between the new generation of the new leadership, the new generation of these parties. The Labour Party is saying, no, we need a simple thing, quick, straightforward, well organized. We need an election now. We need an election now. We vote now, so that the government can have legitimacy. Sunak has no legitimacy at all, because he's just elected. There was no opposition. It's like a big push from primary 1 to go to primary 4. Since you are clever, you can go. You can't say you studied. You must go through. At least the doctor of history and education is here. Wanda, Dr. Wanda will tell you that you must study all the stages before you come to leadership. So, Miriam, this is the scenario we find ourselves in. The key ministries, or the 4 ministries that we need to look at now: defense, foreign affairs, home affairs, treasury. These are very, very important ministries that need to be discussed, looked at. Where is the foreign policy going? How are we going to tackle France? How are we going to tackle Russia on Ukraine? Is Russia going to be a problem? Will it be a piercing needle that breaks another government? Another thing that is now at stake is the 40 billion pound 40 billion pound hole in the cabinet, in the economy of Britain. As I told you, things have become so bad that a car, a Range Rover that you used to fill petrol for 40 pounds, it is now going for 300 pounds to fill your Range Rover. In fact, the fuel here is much cheaper. If there was a way to take a pipe up to London, one would come and take the fuel. The prices are so high. You usually charge 20 pounds that could last you a week. They are now just lasting 3 days. And the price of gas per cubic meter, not cubic meter, but by cubic measurement of the gas has gone so expensive. Gas that used to last you one week lasts only 2 days and 2.5, and yet you need to have some heat. The weather here is very, very, very extremely, very, very bad. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the fragile situations that economies across Europe are facing. It's not only Britain. Most of the economies across Europe, America also is facing the same, although it hasn't reached to that crunch, but it is coming there slowly. So what will change? What will end this stalemate? The war in Ukraine seems to be digging in and digging in and digging in. How long shall we be watching the events and the effects of this war? I therefore return to the studios in Nairobi. If there is any break, I can say, but if there is no break, we move to the second item that we have. Miriam, you can introduce it to us.
All right, thank you so much. And the latest on the Ethiopia conflict, the two sides in Ethiopia's civil war have begun formal peace talks for the first time since the conflict started nearly 2 years ago. The African Union brokered talks are being held in South Africa, where a spokesperson for the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, has confirmed the fighting in and around Ethiopia's northern Tigray region is thought to have left tens of thousands dead. It has also created a humanitarian emergency in its aftermath. Soldiers from both sides, the federal government and Tigrayan forces, have also been accused of war crimes and carrying out atrocities. There are few details of what is exactly happening in the negotiations or what is on the agenda. The talks have been convened to find a peaceful and sustainable solution to the devastating conflict in the Tigray region and will end on Sunday. That is according to President Cyril Ramaphosa's spokesperson, Vincent Mangwenya. Nigeria's former president Olusegun Obasanjo and Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president of Kenya, who recently stepped down as Kenya's president, are facilitating the talks along with South Africa's former deputy president Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka. And the AU and UN and the US have been urging the Ethiopian federal government to sit down with its Tigrayan opponents for months. There were fears with the recent resurgence of heavy warfare could aggravate the already catastrophic situation for civilians. A virtual blockade of Tigray has left millions in need of food aid as well as increases in death and malnutrition. The Ethiopian government has not granted journalists access to Tigray since June 2021. With most communications cut off in the region, it has been hard to report on the extent of the conflict and humanitarian crisis.
Thank you very much, Miriam. You have heard it all, and let's go in that order. I believe, Muti, you have the latest on this matter before I give you, but the latest is President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is celebrating 62 years since he was born, is there in South Africa attending this conference as one of the co-mediators. The whereabouts of His Excellency Obasanjo are not yet known because he has not shown up, and no pictures so far, no camera, no press, no intelligence reports that come from South Africa have indicated he is anywhere around the buildings. But you remember Tigray on the other day had already said it is not very happy with the mediation of Dr. or General Obasanjo. Let's wait, but both delegations are in South Africa. The Ethiopian, Addis Ababa, and the Tigray, they are all in South Africa. And many observers, friends of mine, who have been observing peace across the world, the St. Gidio parks of Sweden, all of them are there as observers. I've talked to some of them this morning, and the framework is now well made, but we still have, I think Muriti was with me when I was hosting one of the situations on Monday. You saw how people were saying they need Oromo on the table, they need Amhara on the table. Another state came in called Afar. They need to come on table. Is it time now, Mr. Muriti, that more of these organizations come on table? And before I let you in, there is also the United States of America has just, the House of Representatives has just sent a message and a letter to Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed to cease fire immediately and ask Eritrean troops to leave the territory of Ethiopia. I think it is coming to red alert. Soon it will be red alert. And believe me or not, Tomahawks will be working on somebody somewhere in Africa like they did on Gaddafi. Believe me or not, when we come back here, there will be Tomahawks flown like the ones that went to hit Gaddafi. You remember in the 90s and the 80s, they were flown all the way from the Mediterranean Sea in the Gulf, and they went to hit a building which was supposed to be Gaddafi's. There is someone who is fueling this war in the Horn of Africa. And for me, I've been very consistent. I've said it, Eritrea strongman is behind the current conflict. And if we don't call him out, this conflict might not end. Muruti.
Yeah, thank you again, Dr. Matsanga and Miriam for this program. We really do appreciate that this kind of platform is given to us to discuss issues that matter to us dearly, especially like a person like me, because I am directly affected by the war that is taking place in Ethiopia. So I just want to comment on, as Dr. Matsanga said, how far is this going to take, especially the peace talk that is being held in South Africa. Is it going to be fruitful? Is it going to bear fruits? Is it going to bring peace to Ethiopia? That one is yet to be seen. The interesting part this step is taken for the first time. The team from Tigray region, the Tigray regional government or regional authority, have been able to land in South Africa. So also the team from Ethiopian government has been there, according to the report. But I think the talk started yesterday, according to the press release from African Union, and we are yet to see, the outcome. But as an Ethiopian, for just to say, but I came from Oromia region. I belong to the Oromo people who are also suffering tremendously under the current war or civil war in Ethiopia. Dr. Matsanga, you remember, I've just shared with you my Twitter handle with a video that the Ethiopian government used drone to kill civilians. You have seen on the ground where people are, spread, mutilated people are spread all over, blood all over. A massacre has taken place by the Ethiopian government by using drone strike. The government in Ethiopia, on one side, now the puzzling part is here. On one side, the Ethiopian government is trying to bring peace by, negotiating with the Tigray region authority, while drone is attacking, the Ethiopian government drone is attacking people in Oromia. So I don't understand this part. This peace talk should have been included all the warring parties in Ethiopia in the first place. To give it a meaning, it should have been included all the warring parties. It's good that now the mediation is taking place in South Africa. That is a positive step. Nevertheless,
when you talk of all interested parties, you want Oromo to be represented on the table, Amhara to be represented on the table, Afro. You want the entire nation, because the government claims those areas are not affected, and therefore they are not going to bring in people who are not affected. What is the point that you really want to come out and that the mediators here? Could it be it is also an obstacle? Because if other groups are, breaking the ceasefire, it means there is somebody who has the power to break the ceasefire, even if you write it on paper. And the Amharas also zeroing in, digging in to eliminate the Tigray people. We had the Tigray people crying that they are being squeezed by Eritrea from the north. The Amhara are squeezing from the south. The Ethiopians are coming from the east. Isn't it time that the whole nation plays what we call politics of redemption strategy, the healing process, the touching, the reconciliation that we need in order to cure the current malaise that is in Ethiopia?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Matsanga. Again, look, you have just put it very well. What is needed in Ethiopia is a reconciliation of, the whole people in Ethiopia. It's, the war in Ethiopia is not only in the northern part of Ethiopia. The war in Ethiopia is a civil war. There is a war raging as we speak in Oromia region, is the largest region of the Ethiopian federal state. As I mentioned earlier, the Oromo Liberation Army is fighting with the Ethiopian government forces in Oromia region for a very long time now. there is no media coverage. The government is, blocking
There is also
internet.
the Ogaden. There is also the Somali issue.
Yes.
Of
Yeah, there
Ogaden.
are.
I saw some fight at the airport. Are these some of the problems, obstacles that are making the war not to be over?
Exactly. Look, Dr. Matsanga, there is a lot of grievances in many regions in Ethiopia. In Amara, in Afar, in Somalia, there are a lot of grievances. Even if there is no, large-scale war, there is conflict within all Ethiopian region. The main, serious and the big fighting going on is in Oromia and the Tigray region. The Tigray region is worse, as everybody knows. But the next largest scale war is taking place also in Oromia. But the media coverage is not there. But people in thousands are dying. As I've shown you as I've shared with you the videos that I shared with you through the inbox, Dr. Matsanga, you have seen from there how people are being killed by drone strike. Why is the Ethiopian government using drones to kill innocent people in Oromia? That has to be a question. So, and the Oromo people, especially the Oromo Liberation Army, Oromo Liberation Front, the largest opposition party in Oromia is not participating in this talk. So how can you bring peace while neglecting the largest region who is also in conflict with the government? So that is the question. But let me also say happy birthday to former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. I am here in his country. We are given, a good welcome, and we are, happy that Kenya is a neighboring country to Kenya, a peaceful, a stable country. And there's a role of President Kenyatta in this peace talk is huge. So it's for us, the Oromos, and even the Tigarus, the Tigray region people, the participation of President Kenyatta in this peace talk means a lot, because he understands what's happening in Ethiopia. As you have alluded earlier, Dr. Matsanga, if the world, especially the African Union, if they want to bring peace to the Horn of Africa, then all-inclusive dialogue, serious dialogue must be, organized, all-inclusive, all parties, Oromo Liberation Army, TPLF, even if there are regions from Afar, there are Afar, Amara, Benishangul, and even Somalia, every party, every grieved party, all-inclusive national dialogue must be held to bring healing and reconciliation to Ethiopia. Otherwise, the talks in South Africa might be some kind of cessation of hostilities in the Tigray region, nevertheless, but the war in Oromia, as we speak, is a serious one. And so the next scenario is going to be Oromia region. If at all there is a cessation of hostilities is reached between Ethiopia and the Tigray government, then what about in Oromia? What about in Afar? What about Benishangul region? Ethiopia is a huge country of approximately 120 million people. So many regions are under, conflict. And therefore, as we said again and again, all-inclusive national dialogue.
It's important.
All parties must be involved to bring lasting peace in Ethiopia. Otherwise, it's a waste of time again.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There we are. Yes, Miriam.
Can I just say, perhaps add on to what you've said and what Murti there said, just with examples that we've seen here in the continent, that some of these mediation processes were organized in a very shambolic way, and at the end of it all, nothing really came out. Remember the national dialogue that Paul Biya prepared in Cameroon in 2019, that really bore no fruit. because the war still continues, and the conflict between the Anglophone and Paul Biya's government is still there. Also that one of South Sudan. Remember, people like Thomas Cirillo were left out in the mediation process, and they're still a problem until today. So I think the point that Murti there is insisting on bringing everyone to the table is very important, so that you get to hear from everybody, and everyone has to come there with a willingness to really find peace. But as it is right now, that is quite debatable. The intentions are quite varied. So I just needed to add that. Then maybe we can bring in Wanda.
Wanda, how are you? Is it possible to bring all these parties? Don't you think these are the parties also disturbing the peace? If they are not on table, they will go and disturb the ceasefire, and they don't care because they have not been brought on table. What do you think?
Thank you so much. One, it is very wrong to initiate the peace talks and ignore the Oromo region in these peace talks, because the Oromo regions find themselves within Ethiopia. They are part of Ethiopia. And if this conflict has the three major parties, in fact, I'm seeing three major parties in this war. We have the Tigrayans, the Ethiopians, and the Oromo, of which I'll in one way or the other ignore the aspect of Somalia being involved in this, or the external forces, the Eritrea, Somalia, and the United Arab Emirates. Because for the Eritreans or Somalians to come in, then the key parties involved in the war, they're the ones that are inviting them. They're trying to form the allies so that they fight the war and win it. Therefore, the three key persons that are supposed to be there on the table as they find a way out, we have the Oromo that are supposed to be there. We have the Tigrayans that are supposed to be on the table, then the Ethiopians that are supposed to be on the table. But still, having said that, I'm one person who is optimistic that President Uhuru Kenyatta will be able to strike a deal in the two parties, and they'll be able to sit down and have a ceasefire. One, you look at the relationship, you look at the Uhuru Kenyatta as a person, and the way he has run Kenya in his, especially the last term or the last term that he was in power, he was able to convince the whole world that he's a peaceful person, that he was a person that any other person will be able to say is, even if you wrong him, then he will not pick the side of fighting back, in the sense of I punch you so that we respect each other. Therefore, on that ground alone, those that are getting on the table to negotiate on how to bring to an end the fight, they are coming in with a mindset that this person who is seated on this table, this person who is talking, who is trying to, who is negotiating or rather mediating this one, is a peaceful person. Therefore, if we go in, on the grounds that we have accepted to have a sitting with him, sharing the sitting or co-chairing the sitting, then they are all coming in with a mindset of, let us go and listen to him. Probably we will end, the war will end. Therefore, Uhuru Kenyatta stands a chance to end the war, but for this to be a long-lasting peace, the Oromo people have to be brought on the table. Number two, there is really we have a great importance, or rather we have there is a need that we have the Mandela Desmond Tutu aspect in Ethiopia. That for peace to last in Ethiopia, the Tigray and the entire region, that we need the Mandela Desmond Tutu factor, that they need reconciliation.
At what point, Wanda, does the Desmond Tutu reconciliation come in? And I think William was going to ask that question. When does it come in? When does it kick in? Does it kick in when people have silenced, sat down, hammered agenda 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? There are always 5 agendas. And without the 5th agenda of reconciliation, redemption strategy, nothing can work. Yes.
Yes. Now, exactly that. It is the very last stage that should come in, the reconciliation, because you cannot reconcile people that are fighting each other. That you only reconcile people after they've realized that, yes, we made a mistake. And because we don't want this to reoccur again, we don't want a repeat of another war, then let us get to realization what happened. When did the rain start beating us? I mean, where did you wrong me and where did I wrong you? So that they get to agree, then move forward. But I wish that the mediators will be able to speak direct in the face of the external forces involved in this war. That they should be in a position to stand their ground and ask Eritreans to walk out. Ask for as long as the key parties involved in the conflict have decided to sit down and start talking, then the first demand that the mediators should probably pose on the table is to ensure that the parties the conflicting parties demands that, ask their allies to walk out. Once the allies walk out, then it will be the very great foundation now of peace talks. But if we'll still be having Ethiopia, the Eritreans coming in, a claim that Somalians are involved, a claim that the United Arab are involved in this. And then on Saturday we saw we saw Adwa city in Tigray, being captured under Ethiopia's. Therefore, this one person, it will happen like what happened in South Sudan, where the Machar goes in and feels like, I should go in, but with one leg and the other leg outside. But demanding that the external forces walk out will be a great foundation of initiating the peace talks. Therefore, I wish that the mediators do that. And I wish that the two, that is from Tigray and Ethiopia, will be able to demand that our allies step aside, give us time. We first listen to what the mediators want to tell us. We first give it time. If that happens, I'm so sure and I'm very convinced that the peace will finally be realized. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Medium analyst, you have any question? Let's move to Tawish. Awanda has explained the peace will come. Yes, Miriam.
And even, as Tawish, let me just pose a question even as he prepares to give his opinion. Because we know Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, really after he came into power in 2018, and then he reached out to Eritrea, and that earned him a Nobel Peace Prize because of the peace he was able to broker between Ethiopia and Eritrea, who were at loggerheads for a very long time. Now, when you look fast forward and you look at it today, you wonder what was the purpose of reaching out to Eritrea now that we see how this government is cooperating with Isaias Afwerki as far as the warfare against the Tigrayan region. Does he even still need to be keeping that peace prize? Tawish.
Oh, thank you so much, Miriam. And indeed, I was listening keenly to the submissions, and particularly from one Rwanda. And I agree with him to the extent, Miriam, that even as the negotiators or those who are overseeing the peace talks in South Africa continue with this initiative, they must call out the participation of the external forces or external players in as far as fueling this conflict in Ethiopia is concerned, because by the end of the day, the people of Ethiopia and the rest of the African nations, really, or continent, will be so much eager to see that that calmness, tranquility, and peace has returned to that very promising nation in the African continent, Miriam. Secondly, Miriam, I also want to laud, of course, the participation of the immediate former president of Kenya, that is, of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, and the vice president of South Africa, and other players who are actively undertaking in these negotiations to try and broker a truce in this conflict in Ethiopia, Miriam. It is very, very important, and it points to the direction that at least we are making some breakthrough. We are making some headway in as far as finding a solution to this problem is concerned. Because Miriam, in itself really is a milestone that you have warring parties agreeing to sit down together on a negotiating table to try and, of course, broker compromises and broker truths and find a long-lasting solution to this conflict. Miriam, suffice to say, we will not want to see a plethora of activities or meetings really being undertaken and for formality purpose like it has been the norm or tradition. We would want to see really a deal being struck out of these particular negotiations that are going on in South Africa, so that for the first time after almost or over 2 years, the conflict that has really seen so many people being displaced and most of them also being killed, properties being destroyed, and I mean the livelihoods of the people in the parts of Tigray region being destroyed completely or brought to a halt, are really being normalized. Because after all, that is what that is what humanity. We wouldn't want to see the Ethiopian forces continue to suppress the people of Tigray. And it is also important to mention, Miriam, just like Wanda has said, that we want to see all the parties involved in this particular conflict of in Ethiopia, be it those in the Oromo region, Tigray region, and the Ethiopia government really being fully represented, so that by the end of the day, we wouldn't want to see scenarios where some parties come and say they were not a part and parcel, or they were not rather involved in the negotiations for trying to strike a truce in as far as this crisis is concerned. So that by the end of the day, it's a contribution of all and sundry, of all the players that are involved in this particular case. But it is important to stress the fact that for the first time, I'm one of those people who will hardly give credence or even accolades to the African Union, AU, because more often than not, they have given a blind eye and a deaf ear to the so many atrocities and there's so much of genocide that we have seen in most African countries. But for the first time, I think through FACI, there's some steps that are trying to make that are commendable, that we as the African people really feel encouraged, that at least they're making some efforts and giving a very sheer and honest commitment to try and find a solution to the conflict in Ethiopia. And it's a calling, Miriam, that even in the face of trying to find a solution in this crisis in Ethiopia, that there are so many myriad of security challenges that we face in most African countries today, that we really want to see the African Union, through its leadership, come out full throttle to try and address. But once this matter has been resolved amicably in Ethiopia, so that we can now be able to settle down and look into how we are able to resolve amicably some other conflicts in the region of the African continent. Miriam, for now, I submit.
Okay. And as I have said there earlier, the Ethiopian government has not granted journalists access to Tigray since June 2021. With most communication cut off in the region, it has been heard to report on the extent of the conflict and humanitarian crisis, but it is believed thousands of people have been killed, and there's a crisis as far as humanitarian needs is concerned, because there's also been a blockade. Even aid cannot reach that region. So that is that. Doc, back to you.
I think when Miriam, one of the things that we have got to look at now, as far as I can see what is going on the ground, it is going to be very, very difficult for the mediators to achieve the first breakthrough, because as this war people dig in, there is also another war coming out. Other places are coming up to say, hello, we have been waiting for this moment. So it would be better for me now. Yes, I am telling you, I have negotiated a war of this nature. When we went to negotiate the Lord Resistance Army war, there were factions within the army. Some of them killed their friends. You remember Oti, the second in command, was killed, was assassinated, finished, because he had a different approach. And so many commanders lost their lives. Factions started emerging. Some had been paid money by the government of Republic of Uganda to to rebel against their commanders. So as we start this war, the negotiations, the mediators should look at encompassing the whole Ethiopia. It looks the entire Ethiopia is a state of states within states. I don't know whether you have got me on that one. It's a state of states within states. There are so many states in Ethiopia that they need, I bet, they need a very serious discussion on table. I don't think we are doing it right. If I'm wrong, God will help me.
So, Doc, what should be the, because they've not laid out, the AU has not laid out the structure or the agenda for this mediation process, but what should be the priority right now? I know cessation of hostilities is very crucial. What else?
The priority could have been cessation of hostilities. And the biggest priority right now is to ask Eritrea to leave.
Eritrea has been asked to leave numerous times. Should they be forced to leave at this point?
I think for me, radically, I would need to bomb Eritrea.
So they need to be forced to leave.
Yes, we need to bomb Eritrea. We need to target the tomahawks. We need to target Asmara. Honestly, because that is the only way to end this conflict. Because we have, look, Miriam, let's talk, nicely. Let's go on this. These guys in Eritrea are being used. Someone is using them. When you go on Al-Shabaab, they are there. They know what happens in Somalia. They have an upper hand than even the Somali government. They go between the US and the Saudi Arabia. You tell me, how does Al-Shabaab get those uniforms that resemble Saudi Arabian military? You have seen their display of armor. They have the newest guns, which some African countries don't have, even AK-47, as brand new as that one. So, if you are telling me, the only other solution, United States just as what Reagan and Bush, the father, the late Bush, did by striking Tripoli. He struck Tripoli and he missed Gaddafi by minutes. We don't need now to destroy a state. You don't need to go and fight the entire Eritrea. The United States has the capability to find out where these leaders are who are causing the chaos. and use air power to silence the war. And I think, Miriam, I am not wrong. It is moving towards there.
And Doc, when you look at Eritrea, I think the more you talk and get farther into Isaias Afwerki's position in this conflict, because we know Eritrea is one of the most sanctioned countries in the continent for so many reasons, human rights abuses and lack of freedoms and things like that. Do you think right now Eritrea is taking advantage and running its agenda at the expense of the people of Ethiopia who are now suffering, because maybe this will be the right time to get the attention that perhaps they'll be needing and maybe negotiate over something for them to leave Ethiopia? Are they running the agenda at the expense of taking advantage at the expense of these people who are suffering? Because things are not okay in Ethiopia, in Eritrea.
Yeah, I think they're gaining. They're gaining. The Eritrean government has been a dictatorial government, a militaristic government.
It's very sanctioned,
Yes.
more than
And
even
it is
Zimbabwe.
a brutal government who have been under sanctions of the United States and other international agencies.
So are they perhaps looking for an opportunity to negotiate some of these things? That's why they keep working with impunity like they are.
They are not able, they are being used. When you want to silence guns in Afghanistan, you have to use Eritrea. it is the gateway to Afghanistan before they go. They are refreshed in Asmara before they go to Doha for meetings. Any intelligence officer will tell you that. And it is very clear now that things should not stand if we have to save the interlocating reasons which Kenyatta put forward and said the interlocators have nothing, no framework, is what is going to happen this peace process. Because one of the frameworks that you can look at is, why are you leaving Amhara? Why are you leaving Omoro Liberation Front? Why are you leaving Afar? Even if it doesn't have war, why are you leaving Somali people? The MP of Somalia was shot at the airport. You know that one. There was a gunfight between the Ethiopian troops and the Somali MP who was shot. So these are some of the things that could lead to very, very complicated issues that can derail the peace process. The earlier we give them out, the earlier we speak about them like we are doing, the better for the people of Ethiopia, Tigray, Oromo, Amhara, Afar, Somali, Ogaden. Because this is a state within a state of states. A disorganized state within a state of states. That is very serious. If I'm wrong, the Ethiopian guy himself is here. If that is not the description of your state, Mr. Moriti, have the last one there.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Matsanga, again, and you have just said it. Ethiopia is a state within a state of states. That's what it is. And there is different interests, different background, you know, that is what it is. So if peace is going to come to Ethiopia, then all the stakeholders in that country must be brought to the table, and then a discussion, a national dialogue with an international observation must be held. And this I said earlier, again, I will say it. Maybe the peace talk that is taking place in South Africa now is to look at the worst area of the conflict, which is Tigray region. But there are still other regions going through civil war, a war that is costing thousands of lives and millions, even billions of property damage. That is also taking place in Oromia. So you will know it, it's just a matter of time. This thing, as just Dr. Matsanga says, when another region is negotiated and stopped, then another region will come up. The war will continue. As long as all-inclusive national dialogue is not held, then there would be no way that Ethiopia is going to have peace. So I really appreciate how Dr. Matsanga put it. Ethiopia is a state within a state of states.
It is a state of states within the states.
Yes, exactly. That is what it is. So the Oromo Liberation Army, for example, the Oromo Liberation Army is training and combating, fighting, liberating some regions from the Ethiopian government's, control in Oromia. And hundreds of thousands of Oromo youth are armed to teeth to defend the Oromo people's interest in Ethiopian politics. So if you don't involve such a huge force fighting the Ethiopian government, in Ethiopia, then how can you bring peace by neglecting actually the largest region in the Ethiopian states? So just let me land it here. The only possible and viable way to bring peace to Ethiopia is by having all stakeholders come to table, discuss a political solution. Otherwise, it is just a waste of time. I repeat it again.
Okay.
We wish the mediators, especially President Uhuru Kenyatta, to strike a deal between Tigray region and the Ethiopian federal government. That's good. It might be a milestone for others, for other regions. It might be a milestone for other regions. So I wish President Uhuru Kenyatta and all the mediators to strike a deal. I wish them all the best for them to make a deal in South Africa, so that, I repeat, it could be that could be a milestone for other steps to be taken to bring peace to the whole of Ethiopia. But let me repeat again, without involving the largest region of Ethiopia, the Oromia region, and there's the Oromo Liberation Army, who is fighting with the government teeth to teeth, with hundreds of thousands of armed soldiers, there would be no peace in Ethiopia. So this has to be looked at. When there is an army representing the interest of Oromo people and the Oromia region, Oromo Liberation Front and the Oromo Liberation Front as a party. So without involving this huge party and the huge army of the Oromo people in this peace talk, to bring peace to Ethiopia is just a joke. That's all I want to say. Thank you for the opportunity that you have given us, Dr. Matsanga, and the Punchline Africa TV, Miriam also. Thank you very much, and as a panelist. And maybe other panelists might want to add, I don't know. For me, I land my mic here. Dr. Matsanga, thank you.
Thank you very much. Before you leave, some news coming out again in Africa. I want to remind the people watching, and I will repeat this clip. This is Matsanga Global Trends. Matsanga Global Trends comes on a daily basis and makes it also a very, very good reading for us. From now onwards, in our studios in Nairobi, we have Miriam. You can see the new format of studios that we have now. We have departed away from the old style. We are also moving a step further, maybe to be on the peace process on the table in Johannesburg. So you pray for us. But latest news coming out that the president of Democratic Republic of Congo has been forwarded the name as a facilitator of the crisis in Chad. Remember, the two brothers in Chad are fighting. And again, African Union is again the main cause. Mr. Musa Faki is fighting to create confusion in his own country, Chad, in order to become the president of that country.
I want to hear that again. President Felix Tshisekedi has been appointed to mediate the process, the peace process in Chad, and whose own country is under siege, literally. Is that what you're saying?
You can also see that. He cannot mediate it is like sending Obasanjo when Nigeria is under alert, very serious alert, a serious security alert. And I just want to beg Muriti not to go. We still have about 24 minutes. We want to look at the next topic where you can throw one or two words. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Welcome Congo's DRC Tshisekedi to facilitate the peace talks of Chad. EU lifts sanctions on 3 Burundians. Ivory Coast starts construction of a bio power plant United States of America authorizes departure of non-emergency staff from Nigeria. We start from there, Miriam. Why is the United States of America putting an adversary alert, security alert on Nigeria? Give us the background.
And Australia also did that a week ago, but just quickly, Doc, and then we just get into the conversation before the panelists leave for other engagements. Nigeria's secret police on Monday issued a fresh alert on the security situation in Abuja, the Nigerian capital, calling on residents to take necessary precautions. So this is also Nigerian police. In a statement, Peter Funanya, spokesperson for the Department of State Services, DSS, recalled the security police had previously issued a security advisory to residents in Abuja to remain alert and calm. The latest alert was issued in view of the security advisory released Sunday by U.S. Embassy to its employees on a possible terror attack on public places in Abuja. He added that the secret police was working with other law enforcement agencies and stakeholders to maintain peace and order and beyond Abuja. So even the State Department of State Services is actually acknowledging the validity of that travel advisory by the United States.
Yes, thank you very much, Miriam, for bringing that. One of the problems of international relations is leaving the country to go to the dogs, then come back to help. We have been crying here for the last 6 years that Nigeria is falling to pieces. Nigeria is going under Atlantic Ocean, is sinking, and the people have not listened. We have been telling the whole world that there is no state called Nigeria. There is a fragmented state within states of fragmentation. You know, fragmented state within state of fragmentation. While Addis Ababa is a state of states within states of Ethiopia. Because there are so many difficulties in Ethiopia, but there is a root of fragmentation of a state in Nigeria. Kidnap, rape, murder, floods, terror, Boko Haram, famine, electricity, people living on water. You have to go. Can I tell you something? You have to go to your house, enter through a canoe on water, and then the bed is next. You have to raise the bed higher. You don't know the level of water will come. Look, what country is this on African continent, surely, you people? So this is something that has upset me, that the international community does not want to listen when we talk about states collapsing in Africa. They don't want to know us. They think we are exaggerating. Now it has dawned on them, and they are giving adversary notes. When did they know that Ethiopia was going to collapse? They knew it a long time ago. They brought Dr. Abiy Ahmed, an NGO man, planted him on the people of Ethiopia. They disintegrated this state. They told him, go and shake hands with your brother, Isaias Afwerki. Because they couldn't touch Isaias Afwerki, they killed the country. They should have tackled Isaias Afwerki first before they bring in anybody, any changes. Nobody has explained to us why the other former prime minister over a sudden resigned. The same has happened in Nigeria. Buhari has been at the center, a darling of the West. He goes to America to meet President Bush, President Trump, President Biden, but the country is sinking. The country is fragmented. It's not even divided, it's fragmented. The Fulani cannot talk to Hausa. The Hausa cannot talk to Igbo. The Igbo cannot move to the north. The Boko Haram is killing in Maiduguri, north part, in the Sahara region. What state is this do we have as Africans? This is our problem. And let's discuss anyone, Miriam, can take a go. Let's begin with Dr. Wanda before he leaves. And then Oromo, then Tawish, you sum it as for us. And then we come and see whether sanctions on a country called Zimbabwe will ever be lifted and why they might not be lifted. Even if there are changes in Britain, they will not, they seem not to be going away in that direction. Let's look at that. Wanda.
Thank you so much. Based on the current news, the breaking news that you have just read to us, where Felix Tshisekedi is being fronted by still AU to lead the peace talks, I find it either like President Faki is not, he is either doing these things deliberately, is either not a Pan-African at heart. Like, how do you pick Tshisekedi or Felix, who is having troubles with peace in his own home, who has failed to address the peace talk peace in his own home? Then you ask him to go and initiate the peace talks in another country. Like, you bring people together to ask them, you need to be peaceful, and yet in your home there is fire, the stove is burning, the kitchen is almost burning. I find it like President Faki, the AU chair, is either not a Pan-African at heart, or he either enjoys when Africa burns. Now, then I go back to the third segment, the Nigeria, the Zimbabwe, and all these troubles that you're facing. Like the other day, we had the Nigeria security, that is the secret security team issuing an alert of an attack or a security attack or a security threat. We also had a number of embassies doing the same, issuing the travel advisory to their own people, of which any other time Nigeria is about to get to an election, or generally Nigeria, as Dr. Matsanga, you're putting it, Nigeria has never known peace for some time by the fact that we have the militia groups that keeps kidnapping, killing, and we also have the sacred conflicts that at times hit the country, that will at times have the sacred conflict in the sense of the Christians at times getting violent, attacking the Muslim, and the Muslim doing the vice versa. Nigeria needs someone to look keenly at what is happening there. Although it is not a surprise to me, based on what is happening between the Igbo people, that is the Igbo people, and the entire Nigeria as a country, that you have the tribal conflict coming in, one tribe feeling like they're being isolated, being misused, not being given a chance into the leadership platform. They feel like they're being misused entirely. You look into the Boko Haram, then there is a feeling like probably there is someone who is funding the Boko Haram. Like, there's a militia group. Where do they get the fighting skills? How do they get to know these things? Where do they get the weapons to fight with? Therefore, Africa's problem still lies on a failed African Union and the leadership of African Union. That President Faki should come out and tell us what is not happening. And if he is not able to come out and tell us what is not happening, then we Africans should be able to organize ourselves in such platforms like the Pan-African platforms, then be able to chart a way that will probably push or demand that these organizations now start working. For the case of Zimbabwe, I think Zimbabwe has still some way to go before the country is fully liberated, because I feel like the Western world still are not okay, or they're still not happy by the fact that at some point Robert Gabriel Mugabe asked them to pack. So, the way Mugabe led Zimbabwe, the Western world was either not so key to the extent that they developed hatred and they felt like, let us completely destroy this country. Therefore, the sanctions and so many things that happens in that country still goes back to the kind of leadership that Zimbabwe had under Robert Mugabe and the kind of relationship that he had with the Western world. I'm not saying that his leadership was bad. I'm not saying it was good, but the relationship that he had with the Western world ended up defining the future of Zimbabwe. Therefore, still, as Africans, we need to help our brothers in Zimbabwe to be able to redeem their image and be able to stand on ground and keep going. Allow me to yield the mic, Miriam.
All right. Was it who's supposed to come next? Murti, do you have anything you'd like to add on to this adversary and what is happening in Nigeria too, which has also have heard its share of insecurity from different groups, and the government of retired General President, I'm forgetting his name, Buhari, sorry, does not seem to have any idea on how to handle the security. So a lot of times I critique a lot of this advisory given in African countries when something is happening. But on this one, I don't know your personal opinion, but I think it's the right thing because of what we've been seeing happening in Nigeria. People need to be careful. Very well. Tawish.
Thank you so much, Miriam. And I think, Miriam, I'm one person who has been all along against these travel advisories or security alerts that are being issued by these, of course, foreign nations, especially on the continent of Africa. But Miriam, that is not to say that it is not something that really doesn't call us to duty and take action in as far as making sure that there's an effort towards making sure that we have sustainable security and peace in our region. In this case, if we may just make the reference of Nigeria and the kind of insecurity that has bedeviled that nation for so many years now, especially during the reign of President Muhammadu Buhari. There's so much that President Buhari had promised when he was coming into power in terms of restoring peace and security, in terms of flushing out the Boko Haram in Nigeria, and making sure that the livelihood of the people of Nigeria is actually guaranteed. But that has not yet been guaranteed. That has not been realized this far. And Miriam, it speaks to lackluster by our leadership in the African continent, and a very big indictment on our leadership and the kind of people who really we give the responsibility of overseeing policies and directions of government, and also managing the resources for the benefit of the people. And what is happening in Nigeria today, Miriam, is not something that we will really smile about. But I will also challenge America and the rest of the countries, or Australia for that matter, who are giving these security alerts and also advisory to their citizens in this respective country, also to be courteous enough to be able to share the intelligence reports that they may be having in as far as the impending attacks in Nigeria is concerned. Because it's not enough really to give the security alerts or the advisory communication to their citizens in this country if they cannot go to the extent of sharing this intelligent report to the security operators in Nigeria, so that they can equally be able to really move into action to make sure that they curtail or make sure that they make it difficult for these, say, terrorist activities or insecurities to be undertaken or to be meted on the innocent civilians in Nigeria, Miriam. I think that is a very big challenge on the part of the Americans and other, of course, European nations that are giving this advisory communication to their citizens, that we want them to do something at least new, something different, something beyond giving this, of course, security alerts to their citizens, so that at least also the people and the security apparatus or organs in Nigeria are able to move in swiftly and take actions on any impending attacks in Nigeria. Miriam, I think we've talked about the issue of even the impending elections, and we cannot quite understand how it has become so difficult on President Buhari to be able to restore peace and security in Nigeria. It makes one really believe, and will be forgiven really, to make a foregone conclusion that perhaps President Buhari and his administration are hell-bent in maybe taking this as an excuse really to prolong or even to circumvent his stay in power beyond maybe what the people of Nigeria, the ordinary citizens, will really want him, because they will want a democratic process. They will want maybe to have a new regime in place, so that by the end of the day, we are able to see if there's new things being done in Nigeria. We're able to see whether security is being restored. We're able to see really if the Boko Haram menace is being fought or eradicated in Nigeria. We're able to see really, Miriam, if the livelihood of the people of Nigeria is restored. And look, for example, the issue of oil. Nigeria being one of the nations in the African continent, which is rich in oil, and people continue to struggle even to get this precious commodity. I mean, how often have we heard stories about Nigeria even not having, not having electricity, having blackout in Nigeria? I mean, what is it that President Buhari is really doing? What is the role of a leader who cannot live up to the expectation of the people who elected them into that office? So I think it's a very big indictment as well on the part of President Buhari. It challenges him really to do a different thing altogether, for him to be able to reclaim the lost glory and the kind of affection that the people of Nigeria have had on him when he was campaigning for office. Otherwise, if things continue the way it is, I think it will be a direct ticket for the people of Nigeria to send President Buhari home in the impending election that we'll be having in Nigeria. Because again, he's not living up to the expectation. He's not providing the leadership that is much needed in Nigeria at this particular moment. I submit.
Very well, thank you so much, Dr. David Matsanga. You can conclude for us. Probably we've lost Dr. Matsanga. Okay. I think he already gave, he already gave his thoughts earlier. He's having a bit of a technical hitch there. So let's see if he's able to come in and say something. And I think part of that advisory by Peter Funanya, the spokesperson for the Department of State Services, said while advising the necessary precautions are taken by all and sundry, the populace is enjoined to remain alert and assist security agencies with useful information regarding threats and suspicious criminal acts around them. The security situation in Nigeria has gone out of hand. Romo Murti, representing the voice from Ethiopia there. This has been Matsanga Global Trends. My name is Miriam Ogotu. I'll be back here later with more news from the continent. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.